Hello everyone and welcome back to Just Finish Coding. I'm Sriram and this video is part 2 of the clock series which we're making on Scratch. In case you've not watched part 1, I will leave a card for you right here. By the end of this video, you will have fixed all your bugs with the R variable and will also complete the entire digital clock. First, we need to fix the bug which I mentioned in the last video. When the R is 12, the half variable will have to be set to PM and the R variable itself should stay intact as current R and not change to current R mod 12. For this correction, we add another if-else within the R is less than 13. In case the R is 12 specifically, we will dish out some new code. But if it is 10 or 11, which are the alternatives, then we can do the same exact thing. In case it is 12, we change the half to PM, but we can keep the R the same. Now that we have this out of the way, let's make the digital clock read the variables. Head over to the digital back sprite and then hide all of the existing variables. This sprite only functions as an image and really has nothing to do with the numbers itself. The sprite is just a background for the digital clock to look better. Nonetheless, we need to rig it, so we can start with a when I receive init. Once we delete the existing clones, we can hide the sprite and make it go to the back layer. The reason we need to add this line of code is because the numbers themselves will be showing in front of the sprite. If the sprite shows itself in front of the numbers, then the numbers will not be visible to the user, and this is definitely not what we want. Rather than creating a clone for the sprite, we can use the sprite itself, but then we can't use some of Scratch features to our advantage. When the stop button is pressed, all of the clones are deleted automatically. So this means that if the sprites themselves are hidden, then the thumbnail will always show in front. So in this case, it just makes sense to use clones everywhere. We can create a variable to distinguish between the clone and the sprite. This will be called clone and we have to set it for the sprite only. If we set clone to yes, then create a clone and then set clone to no again, then the clone variable of the clone that was just created when the script executes will be yes, while the clone variable of the sprite itself will be no. When the tick message is received, it is important to know that both the sprites and the clone will receive the message. In our case, we'd only want the clone to show and we want the sprite to remain hidden. This is precisely the purpose the clone variable was created for. We can have a simple if-then. If the clone is set to yes, then we understand that the object under the script is a clone and thus we show it. Alright, that's going to be the digital back. It's time to make sure that the double digits are working. If you look at the costumes of the double digit sprite, you will see that each of the costumes is essentially a graphical number. The last two costumes are AM and PM, and these two costumes will be used by the clones that show the half variable. When the init message is received, we can first delete all of the clones. After throwing in a hide, we can create three variables for this sprite only. The first one will be clone, and this variable will distinguish between the clones and the sprite and functions the exact same way as the clone variable in the digital back. The next one is type. The clones will be divided into four types: R, minute, second, and none. The clones which have their type set to R will be responsible for the R digits. The clones which have their type sets to minutes will be responsible for the minute digits. The clones which have their type set to second will be responsible for the second digits. And lastly, the clones which have their type set to none will be responsible for setting up the half variable. The last variable is place. This determines which type of digit the clone is showing. For instance, if type is R, the place is 1 and the R value is 35, then the clone will switch its costume to 3. A place of 1 refers of course to the tens digit and a place of 2 refers to the units digit. Now that the variables are initialized, it's time to create the clones. The clone variable should first be set to yes. We can create the R clones first, so set type to R. Set place to 1, create a clone, then set place to 2 and create another clone. We can repeat the same process for the minute type and then finally for the second type. The last type will of course be none. Once the clones have all been created, the clone variable can be set to no. Let's move on to the tick message. We'd only want the clones to take part in the script, so an if then with the condition of the clone variable being set to yes will filter out the sprite. We have to remember here that we have hidden the sprite and the clones, so we must first show the clones. We can structure the script with multiple if-elses. First we check if the type is R. In this case we go to x -175 plus place multiplied by 30. 30 here is simply the width from the center of clone 1 to the center of clone 2. For the y position we just set it to 135. Obviously this is not enough because there would just be a bunch of static clones which don't do anything. The clones have to change their costume as the R variable changes. So here we switch the costume to letter place of R. Okay, now we can duplicate the existing R code within the else. Here we change the type to minute and follow up by changing the starting X value. Since the R clones will be displayed to the left of the minute clones, we need to move the minute clones closer to the center, basically to the right. A value of -92 should do the trick. We also need to change the costume to letter place of minute. For seconds we make similar changes. The X value here will be -15 and the letter function needs to take seconds as an input. The final statement here refers to the none type. This just has one clone, so there is no need for the place. We simply hardcode the X value as 120 and switch the costume to half. And that is all you need to do. If you test out your digital clock, it should be showing you the exact time as your time zone. If you've enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a like and also don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.